On today's episode, we're going to tackle a tough but important key to unlocking your health. So stay tuned. Hi, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. Today I'm going to tackle a touchy subject. Yep, we're talking about gluten. I know many people know that it's not great for us, and yet we know it's hard to give up. How do we know? Because so many people are still eating it. I'm hoping by sharing with you what it does and how many people truly are impacted by this, that it may give you pause to stop and think. And if you take nothing else from today's episode, please hear this. If you want your health to change, then you have to change. If you want your health to be different than it is right now, today, then you're gonna have to do things, you got it, differently. So let's dive in. Most people, when we think about gluten, we think about celiac. These are people who are highly intolerant or sensitive to gluten. They have immediate, severe, negative reactions when they eat something that contains gluten. Did you know that there's an estimated 1-to-8 ratio of people with celiac disease and people who have something called non-celiac gluten sensitivity or non-celiac wheat sensitivity? That means for every one person that is diagnosed with celiac disease, there is an estimated 8 people who have some sort of sensitivity. There's still a debate as to whether the sensitivity is specifically to the gluten or to the whole wheat protein in general, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. Basically, that means that there are a whole lot of people walking around having negative things happening in their body because they are consuming wheat, and they don't even know it because the symptoms are not instantaneous. They are slow building over time, creating these negative impacts on their health. For many of us who have immune disorders, you guessed it, that is going to be a huge impact on us. So let's talk about wheat. The wheat protein, obviously, has a large amount of that protein is gluten, and that's what everybody's always talking about. Gluten, when consumed, increases gut permeability. If you're not sure what that is, check out my last episode. We talked all about leaky gut and how the lining in our gut becomes spread apart so that larger proteins can get through and they activate our immune system, setting off inflammation. Not a good thing. So knowing that gluten adds or increases that gut permeability or leaky gut alone is enough of a reason to just stop eating. But if that wasn't enough, there are other components to wheat that can also wreak havoc on our bodies. There are things called FODMAPs, and some of you may have heard of a low FODMAP diet. FODMAPs are basically a group of simple sugars or carbohydrates that are found in the wheat that are not really digested well in our guts. So they are poorly digested, which means traces are left behind, and the pieces left behind, you guessed it, trigger inflammation. Now, sometimes you may notice this shortly after eating things with wheat. If you tend to get bloating, gas, discomfort, those are all signs that your body is not appreciating what you're putting down. Another component or protein in wheat is called ATIs. Amylase trypsin inhibitors. That's the big word. What that basically means is that it is another type of protein that activates our immune system's inflammatory responses. And what they have found is that the amount of ATIs in modern day wheat is actually increased. So you will often see a lot of people looking for ancient grains, ancient grain breads and things. While there are ATIs still present, it is in a lower amount in those foods, which make them slightly less inflammatory. So if you're going to have a treat, then that might be the way to go. Now listen, I know you're saying, how do I give this up? I am a recovering carboholic. So believe me, I felt your pain. When I first started the diet, it felt impossible to me. I will be honest. Changing my whole lifestyle felt overwhelming. And, I was lucky that I had support at home, so my husband was doing it with me. But I think a big key to my success was that we started to cut things out slowly. So it was like chipping the mountain away, one rock at a time. So we would change or swap or remove one food out each week, and we just built from there. But I remember one time he came down and I was eating my favorite cereal, and he said, "What are you doing?" And I just looked at him and I was like, I am sick of eating this way. Not my proudest moment. So we all have challenges. And the reason I was having such a hard time was because I was having cravings. Now, since changing and diving into the research into why this works and how to best make it work, I have discovered that those little bacteria in our gut are smart and they are hardy. What that means is when we start to starve certain bacteria out by not feeding them the foods that we've been consuming for years and years and years on end, they start to die off. But they don't go without a fight. And because our gut can actually communicate with our brain, the little guys who are starving will actually send SOS signals up to our brain crying out for food. And what that looks like for us is cravings. So when you are craving sugars or carbs, that's the little guys in your bowels talking to your brain because they don't want to die, which is actually a signal that you are on the right track. So ignore those cravings. Those are the bacteria in your gut that you do not want to be feeding. And think of them like gremlins after midnight. Do not eat that. Eat something else that is not going to continue to feed them and grow that population, because we know that particular population of bugs are going to set off those inflammatory responses in our immune system, which is what's causing a lot of this issues and problems that we are having. Okay, so we've talked about what not to eat. So then often the next question they ask me is, well, Jody, what am I supposed to eat then? So the way we did it was we slowly started to change things out. So I loved bread, crackers, pasta, pancakes, all of the yummy carby things. And so what I started to do was slowly replace them. Now, some of this is a bit of a game, and we try to make it fun with our kids when we worked through this with them. And I even got my picky 8-year-old to change his way of eating. So if I can get a picky kid to find new, healthier alternatives to eating, then I know you can do it too. So before I show you some of this stuff, I just want you to know I get no payment from any of these companies, although if anyone wants to send me some free crackers, I will take it. Having said that, our family loves Simple Mills. They have all kinds of different flavors of crackers that my kids like. They're made with almond flour and sometimes cassava flour. They are simple and with not a lot of ingredients. They also have an amazing pancake mix. Personally, I like them better than traditional pancakes. But the other thing is too, once you start to change the foods you eat, your taste buds change. Now, another interesting fact there is that your taste buds don't actually change. What changes is the bacteria in your mouth, because in our mouth, there are also colonies of bacteria that are part of that whole gut system. And when you change the foods you consume, you're also changing the bacteria that you're feeding. And so again, those populations change, and that actually changes the way you taste foods. So you will begin to like foods that maybe you didn't like before, and you will no longer enjoy some of the foods that you used to enjoy. Now for pastas, we love bean pastas or lentil pastas. Again, there are a lot of great companies that make them. You can always check the label, as some have more additives than others. The less ingredients, the better. So I hope that this will give you a great game plan to start and make those big, amazing changes to your health today. I know gluten is a big mountain to climb, especially if, like me, you are or were a carboholic. But I promise you that this one made a huge difference for me, and I am positive it will make a huge difference for you and your health. And once you can get past that first hump of those cravings, do not feed them, and you start to notice the difference in the gas and the bloating and all of those things. For me personally anyway, I found it was so motivating, and it made it so much easier for me to keep going. And once I got past about a week or two, I found the cravings started to go away, and they never really came back. I didn't have them anymore. So remember, small steps that don't feel so challenging, and consistency is key. So when you are changing your diet and removing foods like gluten, consistency is key. The bacteria are very tiny, so even a small bite can feed a whole colony. It truly isn't worth it. And usually within 3 to 5 days, you'll actually notice the die-off start to happen. Sometimes you can feel almost like you're about to get a cold, and then it goes away, and that actually means that your body system is changing, and changing for the better. If you have any great tips or tricks for getting over that craving of gluten, share it below. We'd love to support each other in this community, and together we can make anything happen. Until next time, stay healthy.